The Thompsons were ecstatic about their new home. Moving from the bustling city to a quaint, secluded house in the countryside felt like a dream come true. James and Lisa, along with their children, Emily and Jake, hoped this move would be the fresh start they needed. The house was perfect. It had spacious rooms, a sprawling yard, and even a cozy attic. As they unpacked, Emily discovered an antique mirror tucked away in the attic's corner. It was ornate, with a dark wooden frame carved with intricate designs. "Dad, look what I found!" Emily called out, her voice echoing in the empty attic. James climbed the creaky stairs and peered into the attic. "Wow, that's quite a find," he said, inspecting the mirror. "It looks old. We should clean it up and hang it in the living room." Lisa joined them, her eyes widening at the sight. "It's beautiful, but a bit eerie, don't you think?" "Nah, it just needs some cleaning," James replied, waving off her concerns. That night, after a long day of unpacking, the family settled into their new home. Emily and Jake were already asleep, while James and Lisa sat in the living room, the antique mirror now hanging above the fireplace. As the clock struck midnight, a chilling wind blew through the house. The room's temperature dropped, and the mirror's surface began to ripple like disturbed water. A shadowy figure emerged, its eyes glowing with malevolence. Lisa shivered, feeling an icy breath on her neck. "James, did you feel that?" James nodded, his eyes fixed on the mirror. Something's not right with that mirror. The next few nights were filled with terror. Every night, the shadow would emerge from the mirror, growing bolder and more violent. It would slither through the house, whispering dark thoughts into the family's ears, making them see horrifying visions. Emily woke up screaming one night, her face pale and eyes wide with fear. "Mom, Dad, the shadow was in my room. It tried to grab me." Lisa hugged her tightly, trying to calm her down. "It's okay, sweetie. It was just a bad dream." But James knew better. He had seen the shadow too, creeping closer each night. They needed to find out more about the mirror's history. Jake, who had always been the skeptic of the family, started to have second thoughts. "Dad, I don't believe in ghosts, but what's happening here is, I don't know, real." "I know, Jake," James responded, a heavy burden in his voice. "This isn't just imagination." James decided to visit the local library, hoping to find some answers. He spent hours combing through old records and books about the house's history. Finally, he found something that made his blood run cold. The mirror once belonged to a man named Victor Ravenscroft, a notorious occultist who lived in the house over a century ago. Victor was obsessed with dark magic and had used the mirror as a gateway to summon malevolent spirits. He disappeared mysteriously, leaving behind the cursed mirror. James rushed home, his heart pounding. "Lisa, we need to get rid of that mirror. It's cursed." Lisa's face paled. "But how? What if the shadow comes after us? We need to destroy it. It's the only way to break the curse." "But what if it curses us for destroying it?" Lisa's voice wavered, fear evident in her eyes. James clasped her hands, his grip reassuring yet firm. "I'd rather face that than let it continue haunting our family." That night, armed with a sledgehammer, James stood before the mirror. The shadow emerged, its eyes burning with rage. "You cannot destroy me," it hissed. "I am eternal." James swung the sledgehammer, but the shadow dodged, laughing menacingly. The family joined him, their determination growing stronger with each failed attempt. Jake took a deep breath and stepped forward. "Enough of this," he shouted, his voice a mix of anger and fear. He grabbed a nearby iron poker and swung it at the mirror, causing the shadow to flinch. Suddenly, Emily, who had been researching ancient spells on her laptop, ran into the room with a book in her hands. "I found something. It's an old banishment incantation." "Do it, Emily," James urged, keeping his eyes on the shadow. Emily began to recite the spell, her voice shaking but growing steadier with each word. The shadow screamed, writhing in pain as the mirror began to crack. The shadow roared, "You cannot banish me! I am part of this house and a part of you." But Emily's incantation grew louder and more powerful. With a final powerful swing, James shattered the mirror into countless pieces. The shadow let out a final, agonized scream before disappearing into the ether. The house was quiet again, the air no longer filled with the oppressive presence of the shadow. The family stood together, breathing a collective sigh of relief. "Is it over?" Jake asked, his voice trembling. James nodded, hugging his children. "Yes, it's over. The shadow is gone." Lisa looked at the shattered mirror pieces. "We should bury these, far away from here." As they buried the pieces in a remote area of their yard, the sun began to rise, casting a warm golden light over their home. The nightmare was over, and the Thompsons could finally start their new beginning in peace. Emily looked at the sunrise, a smile slowly forming on her lips. "You know, I think we'll be okay here." James placed a hand on her shoulder, sharing her smile. "I think you're right, Emily." With the shadow banished and the mirror destroyed, the Thompsons felt a renewed sense of hope and unity. They knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, as a family. The past had tried to haunt them, but in the light of the new dawn, they found their strength and reclaimed their future.